Welcome to 1MCSTL St. Louis. I'm Melissa Grizzle, one of the volunteer organizers of the 1MCSTL team. So, this morning we have Lois Lewis and Brian Ingersoll from WandersRV to tell us what they're up to. I'll let Lois take it away.
Hey guys.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, I'll take my coffee.
Yeah, I'm a little challenged here. Hold on just a minute.
You have the clicker?
I have the clicker.
Okay.
Let's see if it works.
Did you go the other way? I don't know.
There we go. Oh, you guys want me out here?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It looked like a floating.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. So no notes, no nothing. So, how many of you have ever dreamed of taking an RV trip, or know someone who has? Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you guys are not alone. In fact, the RV industry is booming right now. In fact, this year it's posting record sales, and it's had consecutive gains over the last 8 years. Now, all these numbers up here are talking about the opportunity, but the thing you should know about it, and the most important number for Wanders, is this number over here, 74%. So 74% of travelers say the most difficult aspect of taking a trip is planning the details. That's where Wanders comes in. We actually reduce the barriers so that people can take the dream trip that you guys are thinking about. We do that by sort of reducing the barriers and increasing the experience of taking an RV trip. Brian's telling me to put this up here. I'm having a hard time standing up here. Now, let's see. What else can I tell you about that? Well, that's about it. So, for those of you who are thinking about taking this dream trip, there's something you need to know. RV travel is not like taking a usual car trip. There's no Expedia for campgrounds. Google Maps doesn't know how big you are when it routes you down any kind of road. In fact, this is a recent experience that I had. So, looking at the left, this is the what I entered into Google. I said, hey, I'm going from one campground to another, route me, and Google did. But this is what it actually looked like. I ended up on a road that had 318 hairpin curves and 11 miles. I had white knuckles as I was holding on to the passenger side. Can you imagine taking an RV down a road like this? It's called, I found out afterwards, the Tail of the Dragon. Motorcyclists love this road. Not so much for RVs. Can you imagine doing this? Let me tell you, as the navigator who routed my husband down this, I'm lucky that I stayed married. So this is part of the problem. But it's not the only problem. Routing is not the only problem. There's also a bunch of disjointed, old school, clunky applications in the market, so you can't put all these things together to take a trip. And in addition, the information that you do find, it's unreliable. You can't trust it, in fact, or it's like sort of overhyped paid placement. So you'll look at this great picture of a campground, but it's not really what you think it is. So also, if you do go to try to find information about taking a trip, it's often hard to find. It's buried in Facebook groups or in blog posts. So you can't find the information, it's hard to route, and choosing places is not easy because they're not consistent. So this is where Wanders comes in. We reduce that chaos, right? And we do that in a couple of ways. We do it by providing tools that people can use to easily plan their trips. And we do it by helping people sort of build a plan, find a place, and share and learn from other RVers. So here's how it works. We have a couple of pieces that go into the product. Travelers can easily, imagine, so you have the problem that exists today, but what if you didn't have that? What if you could easily, build your route, find a place along the way, just with one click, and gut check that with other RV travelers, right? Ask them, hey, is this road really something I should tow on? This is what Wanders delivers. We give people both time-saving tools, so it's quicker and not so complicated, and we give them sort of the confidence that they get from talking to other RVers about how does this work. Our target market for Wanders is the sum-timer. Now you guys, and what we know in this market is there's a couple of other personas too. There's the old timer. This is the person who you might see. A lot of people think this is all RVers are, right? It's like old grannies driving down the road. And there's the full-timer. These are people who live full-time in their RVs, and they're future clients of Wanders. But to start, Wanders is really addressing the sum-timer. And these are people who are a new generation of RV travelers. They're untethered remote workers. They have the ability to work mobily. They have much more work and play combined. And what they're doing with that extra time they have is they're taking long RV trips. What we know about them is that most of them are not retired yet. They're younger people. They spend money on both high-tech gear, recreational and technical. And we also know that they might be renters or they might be owners. So our sum-timer sort of comes from both groups. What Wanders gives our sum-timer is a few things. It gives them a joy in discovering places that they didn't know about. It gives them confidence in building a plan that they know will work. They feel like, oh yeah, this is the right plan for me. It gives them smooth sailing while they're on the road, so no tail of the dragon stories, ideally. And it gives them a story-worthy journey, something that they can share when they're done with their trip. At least that's the promise. So the way we're reaching this sum-timer, we're going to target initially 10% of the RV owning market and some renters. And we're doing that in places where our RVers already are. RVers are sharing and connecting today. They do that primarily in social media, and that's our route to market. That's how we're reaching them. It's not the only route to market, though. We're also looking at RV renters and RV dealers, both of whom we've talked to, and they are more than open to having something that they can help close the deal. It's because people don't just buy an RV, right? They want the trip. So they're more than willing to help us get into the market. So we're going to launch initially as a subscription product. We've set a target. Our research indicates that a $7 a month price point is going to work. And we're going to realize some initial revenue through booking referrals. So they're not that high for campsites, but we will get some. The growth is what's really interesting for us, though. As our market, as our community grows, we look at expanding into both products and services. We really want to own the whole ecosystem. And services are actually really interesting because there are so many people that are buying RVs now. Some of them may find that RV ownership needs a little help. So we have some unique services that we plan to offer to help people with their RVs. For example, we might help people transport their RV from one place to another if they don't have enough time to drive across country. We might help people find a place to park their RV that doesn't exist today. In fact, we're looking at things like Wanders branded RV hookups that would be similar to electric charging stations for Teslas, right? So we actually see a lot of opportunity in services and products. And finally, a big hit for us is as we grow, we're looking at unique technologies that can help us expand our market. For example, think of a stub hub for campsites. So there's scarcity in this market today. It's hard to find a great campsite. They're not all created equal. We imagine creating a platform where people could actually trade campsite bookings that they have. So that's some of our future plans for the product. So here's why we're here today. Let me tell you where we've been and where we are today. In 2015, we won 3rd place in Startup Week in St. Louis. Yay, shout out to that. And we spent the first half of 2016 sort of doing user research and market research. That's actually Brian and myself, that's our area of expertise. We convinced ourselves that this was much needed product. We spent the second half of 2016 actually doing product design, figuring out what it was going to be. And we had a beautiful product scoped out. And then we started getting estimates for what it would cost to build that beautiful product. And we're self-funding. And so we got our I-10 mentors and other people that suggested that we actually scope that down to an MVP. We had a couple of candidates, and we selected an MVP that actually helps people sort of go from Route A to Route B, say either how many days they want to travel or how many miles, and it'll actually break that route down for them, and with one click on each stop, they can find a campground near that stop. So that's our MVP. And what we plan to do is go into the market with that MVP and use it as a way to gain traction and ideally attract funding. So that's sort of where we are right now. Our MVP will release end of October. That's our fingers crossed hope. And that's why we're here today. It's actually, what I like about Woman in Cups is we can actually ask the audience to help us, and that's where we are. So we've been told that, while we have a little bit of traction, because we have been, collecting emails as we go, we've got a website that lets people take a survey and sign up. But as we've talked to potential investors, they've told us we actually have to get this line really going up to the right. That could be through revenue. So that might be selling, our MVP in some way. It could be through collecting emails or downloads, some other kind of traction. And what we're here to ask you guys is actually what experience you've had with rapidly sort of showing growth, especially with an MVP product, that maybe isn't the complete product, but is sort of on the way to getting there. So I guess with that, I'd like to sort of open it up and hear from people maybe other strategies you've used. And if you yourself have not tried to launch an MVP and show traction, if you have suggestions on who to talk to, that would be great.
Awesome. Anybody? So, they want to share with Lois?
Big question.
Yep.
In your initial round, how much did you raise?
So we haven't. We're self-funded right now.
Self-funding?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone want to?
What does the MVP look like? I mean, what is that minimum viable product for you guys? at this
So
point?
it is a responsive website that hands off to Google Maps.
Okay.
So is that what you were wondering? Like,
Yeah. Well,
is that-
I wasn't sure. You said you had built out the product design, and then you were, with the help of I-10, moving towards the MVP. And so I was just getting confused of what the product.
It's
build
pretty
out was.
sexy. I can show it to you later, but I've heard, product demos. But I do have something I can show you guys if we have time.
Hey Lois,
Yeah.
along these lines, you said there's a website, is it also an app?
So not yet. So we're starting, at least the MVP. Of course it will be, because, travelers spend their time on their phone. But one of the things we know is a lot of our travelers actually really trust Google. We're building on top of the Google API. And the MVP, what the MVP will do is hand off directly to a mapping application. Google Maps to start, maybe also Apple Maps. For routing while you're on the road.
Yeah, price point. Or I'm interested in the survey questions and results that you've kind of come across there, and what you've found in that process for your product.
So we've done a lot of different kinds of research, both quantitative and qualitative, right? So we interviewed all different players in the ecosystem, if you will. Dealers, RV tour operators. We interviewed the head of the Active Networks, which is a big campground booking system. So the results from that were all like, yes, this is a product that's interesting. This is a product that end users need. The next round of surveys, though, was really to hone in on what should the MVP be. We had a couple of other candidates. There was like a best campsite, save your campsite. And all campers do this, but they're not sure they want to share with other people. There was also a weather where candidate. So the ability to sort of figure out, if I'm here and it's raining and I can't mountain bike, where can I go? And the price point. Would you pay for this and what would you pay?
And sir, I'm sure you're going to build into it, but is there a service part of that? And what I mean by that is servicing the vehicles, because my grandparents travel around the country, and he spent the time they weren't traveling, he was working on his RV. But he also would run into situations where they'd be out in the middle of Arizona and have no idea how to get a part or how to get fixed or something like that.
So this is actually the place to grow that I was describing before. So products and services. And we see, we keep looking at RV travel as a service. So things like on-site, repairs are a big deal, but even the ability to get maintenance. So you guys may not be aware, but if you live in, those of you who have the dream, if you live in Missouri, you actually have to winterize your vehicle, things like that. And we envision services that would actually go to your grandpa's house, pick up his trailer, take it, winterize it, store it, things like that. So this is where we hope to grow. Even, bricks and mortar, actually. We've looked at urban campgrounds where we acquire commercial real estate and allow people in the wintertime to park their RVs in downtown and still have access. Oh, sorry, hold on just a minute.
I know you mentioned that a big part of your customer base, they're remote workers. How big are they into the innovation community, as part of your research?
Sorry.
Do you know how big impact do they play inside the innovation community? Are they more like a lot of, are they startup workers? Are they founders? Like,
So, well, that's interesting. So I don't have those numbers. I mean, what a lot of people are doing is they're running hobby businesses, right? Some people are doing a gig economy, right? Where they take projects and then they have time off, right? Some people are actually traveling to other cities to conduct a project. Our research indicated that. So it's a mixture. I don't know how many people are startup entrepreneurs.
Yeah, Lois, very quickly, so on your example of winterizing services, you plan, I would imagine, to get some, give a percentage of the sales that you send to those folks to bring in additional revenue, right?
Right,
I
so
mean, I would.
So what we envision is being the platform, owning the ecosystem, right? So that you can get Wanders branded anything, right? You can contract for Wanders branded services, right, through the platform, and absolutely, certainly taking commission is one revenue rad.
good.
But this is all sort of the future plan. You know, in order to get to that future plan, we've been told that we sort of have to build this base and get this thing off the ground. So if you guys have any suggestions, like I can see the future, but I've got this tactical thing right in front of me. Like how do I get investors interested? Go ahead.
I'm losing control. Back there.
Is the Good Sam Club, is that competition for you, or is there
Absolutely.
any other competition in the marketplace?
Yeah. So there is absolutely competition in this market. Let me show you guys this real quick. And Good Sam is one of our primary competitors. One of the nice things for us is that Good Sam is sort of like Walmart. This is the old timers brand, right? So Good Samers is the old timers brand. We really think there's a big white space for a modern camping brand, and that's what Wanders hopes to be.
So, you said you're looking for consistent traction.
Yeah.
And what exactly, what would be like the good consistent traction you're looking for? Is it through customers? Is it through downloads or subscriptions?
Well, and that's kind of what I'm asking you, right? When we talk to investors, they're like, well, you need to show us consistent growth over time. Now, that could be revenue. And so if you guys have any experience with like putting a price on an MVP, you know, the price that's $7, you know, a month, that's when we ask people, when we surveyed them, that's for the whole product. So we're looking at strategies like, you know,
Have you considered no cost for X months while you're growing traction? People don't like to.
so we have, so then traction would have to be something else, right? It would have to be users growing, it would have to be email, our list growing, and that's a possibility. I mean, money really matters though. And I guess for us with an MVP, in some ways, we'd like to see some revenue sooner rather than later. But we've considered, the one thing I'll tell you that we've considered and for now is not on the table, but that might be on the table later is ad-based revenue. Because what we know is that a lot of our competitors are doing that, and what the problem is then it sort of waters down the actual information that people get from paid placement.
Other questions? It sounded like I don't know, Masterpiece Theater.
Have you been on any of the survivalist websites or the message boards? Because I would think that would be one big demographic. I mean, I collect knives and other things, and so there are tons of people on there that discuss their RVs about like they don't have a retirement home, they have a retirement RV. I'm just saying that's just another big set of eyeballs who might be interested in this kind of product. Look at the message boards.
So actually, I'm sort of a prepper, but we haven't looked at that yet. I think for us, this sometime is somebody who's sometimes in their RV and sometimes not, right? Not living full time. But we did actually see an RV business launch just now down in Texas. And what they do is they rent an RV and they will set it up for you. And you know why they're doing that? Because it's so difficult to plan your own trip. You know, if you could plan your own trip, you probably wouldn't need that.
Other questions or thoughts or yes?
Help us figure out how to get traction or tell us how to do it.
Yeah, there's a whole category of people who follow the vlogs and the bloggers. So they're enthusiasts and they someday would like to have an RV. So talk about how you can extend your product to that crowd of fanatics.
The future owners, right? The future owners. I think the real key is what we might be able to do, Paul, with that. It's not something we've thought about too much, but we have this idea of area experts. So again, remember we talked about that people want confidence, they want authenticity. My own experience is when I show my routes to somebody who's been there before, they can be like, oh no, you don't want to tow that. So it may be that idea of area experts, which we see as sort of being geographic right now, might be able to convert into, for example, brand experts or towing experts. We have a member of the team who travels with a family. We have a member of a team that travels with a pet. So it might be able to do some of that. I would tell you that there's a lot of that out there already. If anything, I think what Wanders can do is it can help actually dealers make more sales because they can say, hey, here's the dream. Buy this RV and easily plan your trip this way. And one of the things we didn't say is that as people share their trips, we're going to have trips that you can actually start with. So Brian and I, you could take a trip that Brian and I already took. And if you wanted to ask us questions about that, you could. So it'll help.
Well, one more place you could probably is rentals. So if you could get in with all the rental agencies, places to rent something for 2 weeks and say, well, this is part of your package. You get the RV, but you also get this website that completely maps out everything for you, makes it completely stupid and easy. Then that's a real benefit to the rental agencies.
Absolutely, and as we've said, we've talked to renters, rental dealerships. They are down with it, no problem, right? In fact, the future could be a white labeled product, right? That they could actually use, as their rental branded trip planning. Pricing's a little bit hard with that, right?
It is, yeah.
So we're looking at like a one-time fee.
Just on the traction piece, one thing I see is like if you really just dominated in the space of being like an actual resource. So even like from like Instagram, like even using those hashtags, even blogging yourself or sharing other people's blogs on social media, to on your website, like really being like a dominant force as like planning trips in RV. And that's how you gain that's how you gain just traction over a period of time, and then also become like just dominating the space of like the users. Users is what counts. If people are actually reading your content, if they're just downloading you as a resource, you become valuable, and I think that will then convert into actual like sign-ups and subscriptions.
That's an excellent suggestion, and it's funny. So we've actually transitioned to that too. Initially, some of our mentors suggested we build our own community, but because so many already exist, what we've done is we've targeted some of the strongest ones, and we're trying to become experts in them ourselves, right? Embedded within these communities, we're offering advice, and we hope that when we're ready, we can convert that expert status to recommendations for Wanders.
Yeah, so have you explored breaking that $7, making more of a freemium model where you can get some traction on, free users, and then, go have some low-hanging fruit or some really, people that will pay a few bucks to get expanded services or expanded options?
Not thoroughly. I'll tell you, we've resisted it just because a lot of people, first of all, we know people pay for Good Sam, people pay for some of our other competitors, not a lot, but they do. And people pay for other, these people have money, right? So the problem is a lot of the free information that's out there is shitty. I mean, so our bet is that we'll convert people that'll want quality information. I'm not against it though. I'm trying to stay open-minded, and it may be that for the MVP, that's exactly what we have to do, and then we would need another metric, right? How many people were using it, for example.
Yeah, I mean, users aren't everything, but user stickiness is good.
There's a question back there. We see ourselves growing like with the Amazon Prime model, right? That we will continue to just enrich our subscription, right? And introduce more and more products into our ecosystem.
Hi. This is only my second 1 million cup, so I apologize
Welcome.
if this is a dumb question. But I'm thinking back to the rental companies. that would be something that I would personally be interested in, and some timers like me. And then, is there another, the app space, the SAM one, is that something that any of those renting companies are affiliated with already? And if not, I think back to when I bought, a long time ago, the first round of a Prius. And I bought it because Enterprise Rent-A-Car was doing renting Priuses for people. And so Enterprise lent their credibility to Prius, which I was hesitant to do because it was newfangled technology and I wasn't super excited about it, but I tried it and then I loved it. I rented it for a weekend, I used it, I fell in love with it, and then I bought a Prius. So I'm like the model, that's exactly what they wanted. But I think if you get the rental market hooked on a weekend trip or a week trip because the rental company provided it for them, then they would want to pay. That's something that they would see themselves as permanently using in the future, perhaps. So maybe that's the entry, and then get those companies to pay the blanket fee that you said, the one time, and then you could drag people in after they fall in love with you.
Well, and so that's a good idea. And we think that it could work. I can tell you that today, some of the premium rent, I'm an Airstream owner, there's an Airstream to go. What they do is they offer their clients actually almost like RV travel agents, right? It's pricey, but they offer it. There's another company called Tracks and Trails, and it actually appeals more to the European market, where you actually rent and get your whole trip planned for you, very canned. Some timers don't like that as much though. They like to wander actually. They sort of want their own custom. So what I can tell you is this exists today, but it exists more in human-aided sort of planning, and it's pricey. So where we can come in, and it might be that rental dealerships would be interested in this, where we can come in and say, hey, you guys pay us a flat fee, you can send them over here, and they can use our product to plan. And so it's a little bit more custom, and you don't have to deal with somebody deciding what you should do.
And cheap, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think the B2B business model can be more complex on the front end, figuring out what that is. But if you've got rental companies that connect you to thousands of users, that sometimes can make it worth in the customer acquisition costs analysis.
Well,
So,
that's actually happening
as
in the
opposed
market.
to $7 at a time.
This competitor, Road Trippers, has had an investment from one of the bigger rental companies out of New Zealand. So, we're trying to move, but they're more road, so we're trying to stay in the RV at least for now, keep our niche.
Right.
But it's happening.
All right, one more question. Bring it
I
home.
guess it's just a suggestion. I mean,
Yeah, please help.
I'm always a big fan of just guerrilla marketing.
Of what marketing?
Guerrilla.
Oh, great, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, have you gone out to popular campsites with like flyers and just flyered every single camper that is on the campsite and just bounce from one to the next one with your own RV?
Well,
I mean, it seems like a good opportunity to like get out in your own RV and go out there to the campsites and just like talk to these people in person if you want some of that growth.
let's see what we have. Do
And
we
then
have
try to
this
build a
picture?
viral aspect into it to where they recommend.
I was wondering if we
brands.
had that validation picture,
Yeah.
Brian. So we have done this. We don't have a product yet, okay?
Yeah.
So we have, I took a month-long trip this summer. Both of us go to I go to Airstream rallies. So we've been talking about it for a while, and what we've done is not marketing because we don't have a product yet. What we have done is we dropped these little WandersRV cards. I've got them up here. We've actually run surveys at campsites and campgrounds, asked people, to do our user research. So that might be the next step, especially when we have this product. Now, I will tell you, we're releasing in October. October is not a time when people camp. October is a time when people plan. So online might actually be a better gig for that.
Cool. All right, well, thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks, guys.